We just love our big, juicy and tender steaks. Plenty of seasoning and a grilled, crunchy crust. But we might have been doing it wrong all this time. No.
Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
We love the 2-finger thick ribeye steaks, the big flap meats, strip loins, tomahawk steaks, picanhas, tri-tips. We just love it all as long as it's big, juicy and tender. But before I tell you why we might be wrong, you see there are countries where they are a little bit more modest. Countries where quality is more appreciated than quantity. As a matter of fact, wasting food is a sin in those cultures. Now, my mother and grandmother also thought it a sin to waste food, and every Friday we used to have leftover dinners. And since I ate less of the things that I didn't like, it meant that Friday became more of like a horror night. Not that my mother wasn't a great cook. She actually was a really good cook, but sometimes she just overreacted with all the healthy stuff. But the culture that I'm talking about is more focused on quality. And that means as if the focus is intensely on quality, the quantity will never ever matter. So having leftovers in that culture is really non-existent, because they will decide upfront what you need to eat and you will never ever get more. And so with their extreme focus on quality, they also came up with the perfect cuts of beef, which in Western countries we are now paying crazy amounts of money for. If you haven't noticed it yet, this is a tri-tip. I'm gonna put it on a little bit of butcher's paper that is fat. That is like, normally it would be just a little bit, and I would just shamefully, I had to admit I don't use it when I'm cooking a regular tri-tip. But now this little piece right here is about 20 euros, about $25. So no, worth not throwing it out. And the culture that I'm talking about is the Japanese culture. So what am I doing wrong here that Japanese do right? Well, let's slice into this tri-tip and take a look inside. And of course I can't just slice into a tri-tip, because the name tri points out to these 3 pieces. The heel here, the middle section right there, and the tip right here. And in those 3 sections the grain run in different directions. So you have to cut it up into 3 pieces. That's it. But now take a look on the inside of this tri-tip. From a meat perspective, this is quality. Personally, I've been really into mixing kind of breeds with cows and working out with neighbors how we're going to get that perfect cow that's going to give us a great meat to fat ratio and still keep the intense flavors. But to create something like this, to breed this, that is a tall order. And that's something the Japanese have been working on for centuries. So with all the work they put in to create such a magnificent animal that has this perfect characteristic of meat, they respect it while they eat it. And respecting quality means you're not going to eat it in great bulks. So where I would normally cut out a slice like this as a 1-person meal, about 100 grams for a tuna dough, and whereas that normally would be perfect, this time it would be a crime. A crime against quality. You see, Japanese slice their meat real thin, like that. You gotta be really careful. As you can see, it already starts to tear apart, as a matter of fact. It is that soft and tender. Even the fat, look at my fingers, is melting in my hands. And it's not a warm day. I'm gonna carve out a couple of slices. And this tiny little bit of meat would in Japan be considered as a lot. And to me, that looks like 1/3 of my lunch. And the real reason why you would eat so little of this is because of the amount of intermuscular fat. Now, if you have wagyu from Australia, or wagyu from Canada or America or even Europe, it wouldn't typically be this well marbled. And that's because we mostly don't breed full-blood wagyu. We still officially get to use the name because it sounds fancy, and we can up the price a little bit. But it will never be the quality of wagyu that actually comes from Japan. And that's because they got an export limit keeping this exclusive and the quality high. So when you eat a wagyu burger, it's never ever going to be this. As a matter of fact, a real wagyu burger wouldn't even exist. It's technically not possible making a wagyu burger with this amount of fat because it would fall apart on your griddle. Because the amount of fat that sits on this is over 50%. And that means your burger would melt and the rest of the burger would just fall apart. Another thing why it would never work for us to get a big steak like this is because your body can't consume that amount of fat. Well, it probably can, but it's not really enjoyable. And you'll definitely regret it. But tiny pieces like this will be very, very enjoyable. But how then should we treat this beautiful meat? Well, we start by firing up the barbecue. I got my barbecue set up with a flat top griddle. I'm going to turn on all the burners and then set them to a medium heat. While I wait for the barbecue to start up, I'm going to take some rice. And this is specifically sushi rice. And I'm going to add a little bit of rice vinegar. That's going to make it acidic. And acidity is very important because if you got fat in a dish, you also need acidity to break it down. That's why we love pickles on burgers. I'm gonna mix that up. Of course, I already let this cool down a little bit. And cooking rice is not that hard. It just follow the instruction on the package. To boost the flavors, I'm adding a little bit of salt to the rice. Just like with every ingredient, you gotta do your own taste test. And that's perfect. You're not really tasting the rice extremely, you're just enhancing the flavors. As the plate still needs a little bit of time of warming up, I'm just gonna wet my hands and I'm going to make the required base for that piece of meat. Because like I said, eating that amount of fat, it's not gonna make you happy when you just stick it in your mouth. You gotta have something to balance it out. This is going to absorb most of the fat. It's going to neutralize some of the flavors. And it's going to make sure your stomach is going to be really happy with what you're eating. Of course, the Japanese masters do a way better job than I do. At this point, I got all my preparations done, and the only thing that I need now is a good pair of tongs and a little bit of fat. You see, I want to test to see if the flat top grill is ready. And I do that by putting on a little bit of fat. Listen to the sizzle, because you want to have a mild sizzle, not this crazy like everything is going nuts. And the cool thing is that I can actually use this fat and render it down so we have a good place to grill on. And you can see that my flat top grill is super clean. You got the shine, you can actually see the mirror of my hand. Don't need more fat. I absolutely have enough. So I'm going to take this tiny piece of steak and put it on the flat top griddle. And the funny thing is that with Japanese wagyu, I'm not looking for that perfect cuisson. I'm looking for the well-rendered fat. Now I can start flipping the meat. Wow, look at that. It now only needs a couple more seconds to be done. And just like with my favorite steaks, I'm gonna let this rest. What that's going to do is bring the temperature down and give it the perfect eating conditions, which is room temperature. Around 25 degrees to 30 degrees Celsius in temperature. Now please don't use flamethrowers to grill your meat. I hate when that happens. All right, let's prepare this little masterpiece of us. What I'm looking for is like about the same size. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to make sure we got the right size. Now, of course, I'm going to apply a little trick to it. Got some Japanese mayonnaise here. And if you never had Japanese mayonnaise before, I definitely recommend it, especially like this. Now, the next thing is that I'm going to dip the piece of meat in a little bit of soy sauce. Now, remember, we didn't even season the meat yet, so this is the part where we season the meat. That's at room temperature. So there we go. Let's put it on top. And that is our first beautiful wagyu meat served to perfection. Almost forgot. Nothing to commit harakiri over, but definitely trying my best here to make something that is worthy. Last thing that I'm going to do, which is very much optional, is furikake. I was thinking about putting fish eggs on, but I decided at the last minute I wasn't going to do that. I love fish eggs, but I thought furikake is going to be the better thing to do because it's going to be the ultimate crunch. Do I still? Yes, I do have some chopstick. Always have chopsticks on standby. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it kind of also gave another perspective of quality over quantity. Honestly, I can have my steak both ways. I love a big, good steak, but I also love good quality. So there we go, guys. Wow, that is awesome. This is so well balanced. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys, oh man, no. Worked so hard on, oh no, come on. See, I need a couple of more years training to get this right. Now I'm messing it up. Hope you guys enjoyed it anyway. See you guys in the next video. Until then, eet smakelijk and keep on grilling. Cheers. No. Mm.